Alright, fellow elocutors, welcome back to another video. And here it is, the long hyped up video of why social media is terrible for you. It's killing off your mind. It's it's overall just a negative thing. You know, people like to say like, oh, the net positives outweigh the negatives. And I used to go along with that, and I'm not even so sure if I agree with that anymore. I think really the only platform that you could say that about is YouTube, because I do think it's genuinely pretty informational, as long as you stay out of the comments. But for every other social media, I really can't see the appeal of it. And I have about 6 reasons. I actually wrote myself a little script. Like I said, I wanted to start doing scripts because I just felt like I get to put so much more into it and not have so much filler, but keep the most important stuff. So I've got 6 reasons why I think social media, six, I know how to count, is terrible for you. And I think the sixth reason is actually something that not a lot of people may know about or even consider. Like, we've all heard the common ones, attention span, the stimulation, but I think my sixth one is a pretty unique one that I've come about. So, first one I want to talk about is attention span, obviously. And, we always talk about this, you always hear people harp on this, but it's not something you can really notice if you're not looking for it. And it is really terrible. I mean, how many kids these days, if you think about it, before smartphones ever were a thing, kids would sit through like 45 minutes through an hour of class just, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that every kid was paying attention, but, most of them could pay attention for the whole class if they really wanted to. And I don't think that's something that you can see today. Maybe in less than like 10% of kids currently going through school. I don't really know that's something you could see. It's just it's become so ingrained into people's mind that those constant notifications that your attention span really has to be constantly on something. You think that you're like really good at multitasking, but you're not. Your brain can't multitask. The human brain is not able to multitask. It's already been proved. So really, you're just drawing your attention from whatever's going on in front of you to something over to your phone. And working as a server, I really see this. This really disheartens me whenever I see this. It is the worst thing in the world that I see. I work as a server at Outback Steakhouse. I get a lot of families, and it really just crushes my soul when I see this. I mean, I'll have families come in, four of them, the two parents and the kids, and I mean, everyone, everyone will be on their device. The kids, and sometimes it's just the kids, which is like, all right, that's kind of the parents' fault. You shot yourself in the foot. You gave them internet access too early, sure. But when it's everyone, when the parents too, they're all just absorbed on their phones, their iPads. It just is disgusting to see, and it's just like, it is terrible. Like, even to the point where they'll choose like one person, usually like the dad or the mom, and they'll give everyone's order. Like, they will speak for everyone, and everyone else is just on their device while I'm there taking the order. And I'm not asking them. Like, I know they couldn't care less about me, but like, really, like, you've got your whole family here, and you're making one person take it. Is disgusting. Like, it's literally dystopian. I hate it. I hate seeing that when the whole family's just absorbed onto their devices, even when they're eating too. They've got their device in front of you. I mean, your attention span is just so fried at that point where you can't ever have anything but your phone. You just need that constant stimulation. So that's the first effect, right? Your attention span is screwed. You can't really give your time to anything around you. If you're not working, you're on your phone. That's just how it is. Even when you are working, you're on your phone still. So, one, your attention span gets fried from social media. And then two, it provides a lot of stimulation. And you might be wondering, how is this different from the first point I brought up? But it's a way of escape, almost. So, there was this psychological study conducted. I don't know the name, but it was people, and they were tasked with just sitting in a room, right? Just sitting in a room on a chair with nothing to do. They didn't have their phone. They couldn't read. They just had to sit there. But there was a button that administered an electrical shock. And I'm assuming it was a decent sized electrical shock, not just a little, yoop, yoop. like something to numb the finger, like a decent shock. And they found that people would rather shock themselves over and over than be there silent with their own thoughts. And you might be wondering, well, like, I mean, aren't they just sitting there being bored? Is that really like a fair thing to say, like, oh yeah, who wants to be bored? But I think it, in a way, that it's more than being bored. It's about being alone with your thoughts. Because when you don't have that stimulation to do something, you are left alone with your thoughts. And as someone that has a lot of these thoughts myself, it's definitely something I can see. But it's important to have these thoughts. It's important to accept them, to accept these existential thoughts that may pop into your mind. Like, what's the meaning? Why am I here? Because if you only ever run away from them, you can see this in psychology. In my psychology course, actually, there was in PTSD, right? In PTSD patients, the thing that is actually the worst for them is avoiding stuff that triggers their PTSD, which might confuse you. But here's why. When they get into this negative habit of avoidance, they're never going to be able to habituate. They want to create, when they do the therapy with PTSD patients, it's called a response extinction. They want to make that response extinct, where they get anxiety from that trigger, from seeing that thing. They need to come to realize that that thing is just a thought, a memory, a feeling. It can't actually hurt you. So, but what gets reinforced, it is operant conditioning. Yep, operant conditioning. I should know that's basic psych. Sorry, I was trying to remember between classical and operant conditioning. Operant conditioning, where the behaviors are reinforced by the outcomes. So every time the person with PTSD sees the trigger, or they think of the trigger, they instantly push it away, and that makes them feel better in the short term. But over time, it's just going to be worse and worse, because they're never going to be able to habituate to that trigger and to that response, and realize that that thing can't actually hurt them. It's just a feeling. And the important thing is the response extinction. They need to habituate to the trigger and realize that it's not something that can hurt them. In the same way, I think, just kind of combining philosophy with psychology here, I think over time I've realized that I do wish sometimes that I could get these nihilistic thoughts out of my head that I have a lot. But I've realized that as the time's gone by and I've grown stronger in my faith as a Christian, that it's actually been tantamount to my development. Because if you were to, let's say that you had someone that grew up with adversity their whole life, and they struggle with something hard, and you had someone that grew up without adversity and they struggled with something hard, the same level of difficulty for each person. The person that's grew up without adversity their whole life has already accustomed to it. They know how to react to it. The person that has doesn't. So in the same way, I think that me having those thoughts and healthily processing them and going through them and not avoiding them, but growing through them and working them in through with my faith and, beating it. It's been really good. Those nihilistic thoughts. And I mean, that can just tie back into those existential thoughts that people may have when they're left alone with their thoughts. Like, what's my meaning? What am I doing here? Why am I even here? Why was I put here? And I think a lot of people do seek to avoid those thoughts, but it's not a good thing, because you need to habituate to those thoughts, and if you don't, then you're really just running away from something that's always going to be there. If you never confront them face on, if you never face your fears, you're never going to be able to escape them. They're always going to be there at the back of your head. So in a way, you need to be able to put away that stimulation from social media. You need to be able to put that down and, I mean, really, is there more to it than that? Like, people before, they would read to escape, or they would listen to music, but even then, listening to music is an artistic act. It transcends the workday world, as people would say. But social media is just a complete in full integration of, you're just scrolling and scrolling, and it's always something that's appealing to you. And when it doesn't appeal to you anymore, you refresh the algorithm and it goes away. So that is my second point, right? That it gives you a lot of stimulation, and it doesn't allow you to ponder about the big ideas of the world, and it doesn't let you to it doesn't let you think. So my next point is that people feel more connected. My third point: people feel more connected in a way, yet we're more isolated than ever. um, what I mean by this is people can see news of countries across the world that they would never know about. And I don't think this is necessarily a good thing. Um, at least to a sort of impending doom, doomsday, everything's bad is happening, the world is ending. And people just see all this negative news, and at some point you have to think like, okay, this news may be terrible, sure, but what does it have to do to me? What does it have to pertain to with me? 100 years ago, I wouldn't know about this news if it happened, nor would I care. I wouldn't care because I wouldn't know the news was happening. And you may say that seems a little shallow. I don't think it is, because everyone has to go through their own struggles, and I don't think that broadcasting struggles to people all over the world is really going to help them get solved. That's what we have the charities and organizations for. They spread awareness about those, and they get stuff done. And social media, I just can't imagine it's doing a lot for that. It just makes people, sure, maybe it spreads awareness, but I feel like it really just gets people down. um, you know, and people aren't used to being down, so they're just gonna refresh their page because they don't want to see something negative, and they're gonna go look for something that makes them feel good. And we're just connected, but we're separate. We're even more separate. To kind of get away from the global scale and go down to a smaller scale, people don't know how to talk. I'm just gonna say that right away. That you will find it is very hard to find people that know how to talk these days. Um, you know, maybe less than like 10% of people uh, that know how to talk, and it's not about just stuff they saw on the internet. It's like stuff that they've actually read. I mean, you can just tell when you have people. I have people that I have friends that you can really only talk about internet stuff with them. You can really only talk about like memes or funny stuff or news, current events that happened, and that's the only stuff that you'll really be able to talk with them about. Um, but then you have people that you can talk with them about just anything, and any philosophical concept, anything that's you learned about in class. How many of you actually discuss what you learned in class outside of your class in a non-academic setting, right? Like, how many of you actually do that? You may talk about it with your classmates for schoolwork, but like, how many of you will talk about, you know, your biology when you walk by a beautiful forest and you admire the beauty and the pulchritude of the trees and the flowers around you? How many of you will discuss the underlying biology and just how wonderful that biology is, and how amazing these these deceivingly simple-looking this flora is? How many of you will talk about that? Like me and my friends, I talk about philosophy outside of my class. I talk about psychology sometimes, because I find both of those fields very interesting. My friend will talk about, marine biology. That's what he's taking. He can talk about different like waterways and different fish. And I don't know much about fish myself, but I know if I did, then that would be interesting to talk to him about. And so it's just like a lot of people really don't know how to talk outside of, if you try to talk to a kid these days, they'll be bringing up, oh, like, hey, you see that new 6-7 or the new brain rot, or you see that new, like, you see all those Charlie Kirk memes, and it's like, whenever you're talking to a person like that, inside you're really just like, it's like talking to one of those people that can only talk about celebrities and their lives. You know, they talk about the celebrity lives, which is actually my next point. um, but we'll keep going. So yeah, people just don't know how to talk, and I feel like social media really makes you so you can't talk. You know, you'll go on your phone while you're hanging out with another person, and you'll be like, oh, look at this, and doing that once or twice is fine. Once or twice over the course of like an hour and a half, or an hour and 2 hour hangout. But like if you're doing that constantly, and you're just both on your phone scrolling, showing each other stuff, you're not really talking. You're not really having a conversation. Your phones are having the conversation. So, I think that the third point, social media makes everyone feel so connected, yet in reality, we're much more isolated. And my first 3 points were, probably stuff that you've heard a lot before. So bear with me here. My points are going to get better. And if you're still watching, like and subscribe. I forgot I should start saying that at the beginning of my videos because I guess it does stuff. So like and subscribe, please. But my fourth point, living through celebrities, what I just mentioned, and not just like the famous celebrities like Johnny Depp, but influencers in a way. It kind of disillusions your own life because especially when you get to the point where you're buying merch and the merch is so stupid. It's just like the plain shirt with like a T right here or something like I don't know, whatever and like it just has one little thing right here and it's like a $50 shirt and that just like you want to embody that celebrity so bad, you're going to buy that expensive, overpriced shirt. So, and then you just kind of live through the influences, you make it, it becomes in a way where you're watching these videos, you're watching these day in the life of this person, day in the life of the gooner, day in the life of Skibbity Toilet, and you're just watching all this and you're like, okay, how about you live your own day in the life, How about you live a day in your life? Person watching this video, it's like, come on. I mean, you're just watching all these influencers and you're watching them succeed and get better. And think about how pathetic that is. You're literally a cuck to their success. They're succeeding and you are helping them do that. You're helping them do that while you're actively not succeeding yourself. And you're like, oh, I'm just watching a 60-second video. It's not like I can do, it's not like I can run a marathon in that time. No, but think about your screen time. Check your screen time right now. Your screen time is probably at like 10 hours, 8 hours on like social media alone. That's enough to, gosh, 8 hours over the course of like a 16-hour day, assuming you get 8 hours of sleep. Like, are you serious? Come on. These people are succeeding and you're doing it for them. You're literally, they're feeding off of you to succeed while you're like actively degenerating. And you're just living through them, you talk about influencers to other people and it becomes this sort of like, ew, are you disgusting? It's the same with the people that lived through celebrities like 50 years ago, that read all the magazines, that like, really? Is your life that dull where you need to like live through these people? Like you can't like generally have your own personality and become your own thing, do your own thing? And like, come on, just take a step back, Genuinely take a step back and look at yourself if you think that you may be one of those people. Like, you've got some serious reevaluating to do if that's you. That you just, you need to find your own life, You can't absorb into these influencers and what they're doing. So that's my fourth point. You're going to live through these influencers and you're going to get disillusioned with your own life. You're not going to think you're very interesting, basically. Number 5 is hypersensitivity. And I think this is an important point. This is actually a newer thing that's been discussed. This is not my original idea. I saw someone else's video on this. But it was a very interesting point where it's sort of hypersensitivity. It's sort of interesting because you think it would make you more dull to emotion because of how much stimulation it is, but it's actually the other way. And the guy explained it very well, but I'll kind of take my own spin on it, kind of take my own jab at it. So in a way it makes you kind of hypersensitive because, you have these reels that are making you feel all these emotions. You may see one reel that evokes sadness, one that evokes happiness, one that evokes, anxiety about the world, one that evokes a deep lust, one that evokes beauty, you know, and it, your emotions are all over the place. You know, you're not meant to. The human brain is not meant to experience so many different emotions in such a short period of time. I don't think so. You wouldn't have anything. You don't have anything in the natural world that could replicate this. So, you have to figure that our brains are not meant to handle this many emotions at once. And I think it puts you in this kind of unbalanced, unhomeostasis. How would you even say that? What's the opposite of homeostasis? Homeo precipices. I don't know, but in any sense, you're just your emotions are all kind of out of whack, because they start to become wired to just be so. Think about it. All that it takes to change your emotion, flick. That's it. A flick of the finger. But on your part, when that becomes so tantamount to your experience, when this is all it takes to change your emotion, think about how easy it's going to be to set you off. Um, in the real world by someone else. How little does the threshold become for someone else to set you off into a tirade or make you sad or make you happy? You know, it's just like you're gonna become so reactive to the world around you, not in a good way. You're just gonna get so enmeshed with like whatever's going around you. It's gonna make you emotional and stuff, and it's like, I'm not saying being in touch with your emotions is a bad thing, but to that's not real emotion, you know. It's artificially implanted emotion. It's put there, and it just becomes a whim, you know. It just changes on a sort of whim. Okay, and now to my sixth point, the big point that I was talking about. I haven't seen many other people talk about this, but this is something that I've been talking about too, with my friends for a few years. Sort of something that I see. So the big point, social media has a sort of doling of experience. And you may think, oh, well, what type of experience do you mean? And I wish I would be able to pinpoint it, because then it wouldn't be so serious. But I literally mean that social media doles experience, just experience in general, existence. It doles existence. And I think it's a terrible, terrible thing, because you are going to desensitize yourself to everything that is around you. And one of the ways that I put it is this. One of the ways that I've explained it to my friends is this, right? 50 years ago, say that you went to, you heard about the Niagara Falls, you saw a few blurry, crummy pictures, a pamphlet maybe, and you went to see it in all its splendor, and it was truly just a beautiful, beautiful thing, a beautiful landscape, because you've never seen anything like it. It was just something that you can't even describe. But now, imagine today, and this doesn't have to be Niagara Falls, it can be anything, whatever. Imagine today that you go to Niagara Falls, but before you went to Niagara Falls, you saw this video by an influencer, and this video had cool, drone shots, and it had a wonderful music in the background, and it had like cool shots of the person in Niagara Falls, and it just had all this stuff, and it was a really well done, great video, really well done. You saw that video already, and think about when you go to Niagara Falls now. I mean, that's, we have great technology today. You can be like to the point where it's like almost lifelike in the video, and it has this wonderful music, and you go to Niagara Falls and it's still beautiful. It's still the same beautiful Niagara Falls people would marvel at 50 years ago, but the music's not there. The epic drone shots are not there. You're kind of limited in your scope. You can't be like, oh, I can't see the Niagara Falls from like a 100-foot up bird's eye view. I mean, what's going on? Why don't I feel the magic that I felt when I saw in that video? What's happening? And I think that's terrifying, to the point where like you can almost experience everything on your phone, but it's not real experience. It's not real. You might be like, oh, well, now you can experience the wonders of real world just from your phone. It's pixels, man. It's pixels. And it wouldn't be a problem if like most people would still be amazed, but I don't think that's the thing. I don't think that people do not get amazed when they see these wonders, especially, when they've seen them before on their phone. You're just kind of like, well, this is sort of cool, I guess, but I mean, I could have seen that from my phone and stuff, and it's just like, it is terrifying to think that you're gonna, and this is sort of in a way, another thing about living through the influencers. This can kind of tie into the point. You're gonna be like, man, where's, like, there's not gonna be any great music when you go there. There's not gonna be wonderful edit, like, inspirational movie cinematic music when you're playing there. And you're gonna see views of everything, and you're gonna see wonderful shots, like you're disassociating from your own body, and you can see yourself against the thing. And you're gonna be like, whoa, like, why is this so much worse? Why did this person have so much fun and I'm, like, not able to have fun? That's terrifying. Think about that. Think about that you've lived so much through this person that you cannot experience what they have because they've already experienced for you, in a sense. So in a way, social media just kind of dulls your existence, and I think that, like, your experience in life, that you'll be so, like, I mean, I guess this is cool, but I could have seen this on my phone, or I could have seen something just as cool on my phone, if not the same thing, something else. What's so special about this? And that's the problem. Social media is designed to make you reliant on it. It is like a drug in almost every sense. It's designed to make you reliant on it. You want more, you're going to come back to it. And it's terrible, man. Social media will kill you. And obviously we can't really see this yet, as it hasn't been around long enough, but mark my words, if you do not listen to me, you are going to grow up a sad, pathetic, lonely person. You're not going to be able to find joy in anything. Social media will monopolize control on you so much that it's just going to, like, you are going to be so dulled to the existence of life. It is going to be Wall-E Part 2. You're going to have everything at your screen, and you're going to have nothing. You're not going to be able to conversate. You're not going to be able to focus on anything that requires attention. Sorry, I'll restart. You're not going to be able to focus on anything that requires attention for more than a few seconds. You're going to be, like, you're not going to be able to ponder anything at all. All you'll be able to think about is what is stimulating you currently, and that's it. You won't be able to have any background thoughts. You're going to be super interconnected to everything that's happening, yet whenever you meet someone or meet people in real life, you're going to have no idea what to say to them. You won't be able to say anything. You're going to have to communicate by texting to a person that's right next to you. You're only going to be able to find enjoyment through what the celebrities are doing, what the influencers are doing. You're not going to be able to find enjoyment in your own life. Not going to be able to find your own fulfillment. You're going to be hypersensitive. Anything, the slightest thing will set you off. You're going to be weirdly offended by everything. You're going to be reading too much into everything. And for the last point, you're going to be so dulled to any experience whatsoever. Anything that's outside of your phone will feel terrible. Your family. Think about this. Think about how terrible this is. I need you to get off social media because this is how important it is. Being around your family will not matter to you because they're not going to stimulate you as much. Family can be difficult. It's on social media. Family looks like it's all, they make it look like, everyone, we're perfect. Family, it won't be important to you. Your friends, your friends, I mean, just talk to them over Snapchat, talk to them over Instagram, Why do you need to meet with them? If you do meet up with them in real life, it's not really going to be that fun. All you're going to be able to talk about is the memes, and then you'll have to look up more memes and start scrolling. You won't be able to explore anything. You won't be able to appreciate the beauty of the world as it is because you can see it from your phone, and you're just going to be so disillusioned with life. Your life will be so dulled with experience, man. It is terrible. You need to escape social media now. You need to stop. Like, you just need to. It is a terrible thing. You gotta trust me on this. Social media will harm you. I mean, your life will be terrible if you keep continuing on this. And this is a wake-up call. I know you've probably seen a bunch of videos by this point. If you're trying to quit it, take my advice. I am someone that has seen social media. I've not had it myself, never in my life. I guess besides for YouTube or, like, Discord, but I don't really count those. And I don't use Discord except to talk with my real-life friends. I don't have any, like, outside servers. But it will destroy you. It will genuinely destroy you if you don't stop. Like, you need to. Your life will be worse. Take it from me. Never had it. You don't need it at all. Absolutely not. Anyone that tells you otherwise is lying. Um, you can talk with your friends on iMessage, on WhatsApp. You know, you do not need social media in the slightest. You can keep up with your friends just by texting them. If you're just looking at their pictures that they post, are you really keeping up with them? No, you're just watching them have their life, and while you're not having your own. So you need to stop. You need to get off social media. That's about it. Thank you. Like and subscribe. You know, especially if you're someone that watches my channels and you're not an NPC like me, get off social media. It's destroying you. Thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe.